If you're in a place where it is safe, appropriate, and comfortable for you to do so, please close your eyes and begin to take a few slow, long, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering your body and your mind. With every exhale, feel like you're able to just let go of all tension, along with anything that you do not want. Inhaling light and peace, and exhaling as you drop all tension from your body. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. This ancient sacred grove. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth. This sacred bonfire lights up this grove with the light of perfect love and perfect trust. This light burns away everything that is not like itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into the sacred space, we call upon our Creator. To some of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a mother and father, a goddess and a god. Into the sacred space, we call upon the presence of our teachers, our guides, our angels. We dedicate the time that we spend together to one another and to them, and we ask that we be guided and led as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more healthy, more peaceful, more prosperous, and more loving people. Thank you very much, and together we say, blessed be. So I hope that you've been enjoying this Astral Projection course so far. I'm certain, unless you're already a very practiced astral traveler, that you have not integrated and mastered the material from the previous lessons. So it's really important that you understand that astral projection is not an intellectual thing. It is a practical thing. And if you're not practicing every day, you're not going to get any better. And it's all just going to be a theory. I really want you to become good at this. If this is a desire of yours to have this occult power, astral projection is a very important part of occult power and a part of occult wisdom and working that great work, as we call it. So it's something that you really want to work with and really want to master. Some of the work is a little bit boring, but that's part of all magical training. And it's okay. It's okay because you're going to be rewarded. Just like sometimes going to the gym can be a little boring. You don't want to do it, but you do it anyway to build that body. Well, we're building skill here. And the skill is something that must be practiced every day. So don't fool yourself into thinking that amassing free data from me is somehow going to give you power. It's not. The only way that you're going to get that power is by building it. And the only way to build that power is to work this every single day. You really want to commit to the practice. So there's a lot that we've covered so far, a tremendous amount of material that we've covered so far. Now, if you are working this and you are traveling on that etheric plane, good. That's great. And you're ready for this next lesson. If you're working with those dreams, if you're becoming better at lucid dreaming, that's good too. Ultimately, what I want you to be good at is being able to move about on the etheric independently. That's what I want you to learn how to do. And that comes through practice. And that etheric flying exercise is the best way that I've ever come across for mastering this. And it's just a matter of doing it every single day. And pretty soon you get so good at it that you don't even have to think about it. Assuming that you're doing really well with that, we're going to go on to another aspect of this whole journey. And that is the building of the light body. So let's talk about the light body for a moment. The body of light is also known as the subtle body. It's an aspect of ourselves that can leave the physical body and carry our senses and consciousness during astral travel. Aleister Crowley talked about this body of light, and he taught that developing the body of light is the foundation of all magic, and I agree with him on that. It must be developed with the same rigid discipline as any other mental exercise in magic. It is a discipline, and it's a daily discipline, and that's the next part of our travels in this fascinating topic. To develop the body of light, Crowley talked about 3 practices. He called it fortification, purification, and education. And that's what we're going to do in our own way, because we don't work necessarily in the way that Crowley worked. But he did talk about this body of light quite extensively. And so he is a good source for understanding it. But our methods are a little different than his, because ours are a little bit more streamlined and simple. So to fortify this body of light, we use a ritual. And this ritual is one that most of you are probably familiar with, and it's called the ritual of the pentagram. The next phase that Crowley talks about is purification and consecration. And that also is part of what we will accomplish within the pentagram ritual. This takes care of both of those things. Education, after we've started to build this body, is teaching it to move independently on the astral. The value of this practice is to become adept in service of what is often called the great work. And the great work is what I call the divine design, the will of the universe. The body of light is more than just for astral travel. Through magic, when we create this body of light, we can gain, and it can gain, new powers through the progress obtained through working it. Just like you get more muscle when you're working in exercise. This is also known as initiation. Now, initiation is sometimes very validly performed from one individual human being to another. But initiation also is an organic process that happens from the soul to the ego. So as we are progressing as egos along this life of ours, we are dropping a lot of those ego thought forms and allowing our ego to become less and less separated from our souls. And that ultimate initiation is a union, so that we have unity again with our souls, and we are not viewing ourselves as separate individuals. And those types of initiations can be manifold, and everybody's path is unique, and every tradition is unique. But ultimately, your whole life's purpose is an initiation. And one of the ways that it can be carried out is through the development of this body of light. In the world of witchcraft, the body of light can be used for things such as protection, or as practical as getting information about certain things in our lives, or moving into the near future to make ready our environment for what is to come. And it can be used for very nefarious purposes, like psychic attack. Now, in traditional witchcraft, the astral body of light is often called a fetch, or a wraith form. And it's just an extension of our own astral substance. Many magicians and witches will accomplish their will by transferring their consciousness to this body of light that they've built. And a type of astral projection occurs where this process is undertaken for whatever the will of the magician is. Sometimes it can take on an animal form. They might have a thought form, or they call it a wraith form, a fetch, or a part of their body of light that takes the shape of a predatory animal to protect a space or a person. But it can also be a predatory wraith form that goes out to attack someone, which is not something that we're recommending or trying to get you to do in this course, but it's important that you understand how that works. There's a lot of benefit to understanding how attack magic works. For one thing, you're not as easily vulnerable to it. For another thing, you can understand the mechanics of magic in general by understanding how attack magic works and use those same theories in more benign ways. And also, if for some reason you need it, you can use it. So it's always nice to know. Just with martial arts, you usually don't want to go out and kick ass with your skills, but it's nice to know that you can take care of yourself if you need to. It makes you feel safe. So there's a lot of reasons for understanding how the predatory wraith forms can work. Legends of werewolves and vampires really emerge from the practice of the predatory wraith form. The fetch relies solely on your power. So if you're putting protections out around you that are a projection of your own light body, that's not the same as calling on angelic protection. And you can do both. You can do both. The thing about predatory wraith forms is that what can happen is, say you create a vampire or you create a werewolf or you create something like that. There's the danger of it living on as a self-perpetuating sort of robot or artificial intelligence, feeding upon the magnetism of living beings. And you're responsible for that. You're responsible for that if you do that. That's you. You're the one that is responsible for that form. And so it's really important that you understand this practice very clearly so that when you start working it, you're not irresponsible with it. If you suspect that you're under magical attack, you can prepare for defense by using your own counter magic, but you can also call upon angelic forces to take care of it for you, which is my preferred method, because that way I'm not getting involved in a war between my wraith forms and their wraith forms, my fetch and their fetch, where there is that danger of this fetch going out and trying to get its own autonomy, which is definitely something we don't want. So it's really important to understand these things, but not necessarily use them in those low-level ways. Just being very aware of what you're doing, because the light body ultimately is supposed to be a sacred experience. The body of light is the heart of occult wisdom. So everything in the physical plane has its astral counterpart. So as an occultist, your goal is to become attuned to the inner planes and use them to influence the physical. That's how we create positive changes in our lives. The body of light combines physical, spiritual energies together. It's a fortified astral double of you. And once that astral double has been created, it doesn't have to stay looking like you. It can look like whatever you need it to look like. But we have to recognize that we're all part of a larger ecosystem, including not only the earth, but the etheric plane as well. And each of us has our own part in that. So if you think of our bodies like trees with visible parts, and then there's hidden roots that connect us to the unseen world. And the same is true with us as we have physical bodies, and then we have astral doubles. And then when we can fortify those astral doubles into this body of light, we can really do some amazing magic. So we are in the midst of exploring the inner planes as a first step. And now we are going to work on those inner planes at building ourselves stronger there. Remember that your body of light is a subtle body surrounding your physical form already. But now we're fortifying that so that it has a stronger presence on the astral. The method that we like to use is the ritual of the pentagram. You don't have to use this ritual. There's other ways of doing this, but I'm just giving it to you the way I learned it and the way I built it. And there's a lot of different opinions about the ritual of the pentagram. It's gone through change and theories, and people have talked about it to death. So if you want to research it more, go for it. It has its roots in Golden Dawn magic, but that's the extent of my Golden Dawn practices, is this one ritual, because this is the ritual I was given to use to build my light body. And so I'm doing the same for you. And it works like a charm. But we're just using the ritual as given by Israel Regardie without anything extra. It can help you, this ritual. When you practice it daily, it's twice a day that you're going to be required to do this. It can really help you to not only connect with the inner planes, but like I said, build your presence on the inner planes much more powerfully. I learned this ritual probably when I was 16, and I'm a little bit older than that now. I've been doing this particular form of the ritual for many decades, and I know from experience how transformative it can be. So when you perform it as I'm going to give it to you in this particular class, it can really help you build that light body. Like I said, Israel Regardie taught this particular form of the pentagram ritual that I use, and even though it's rooted in the system of initiation called the Golden Dawn, that's not what I follow. So I don't practice any other Golden Dawn magic. I don't follow that form of initiation. It's just this one ritual that we're working with. Now, like I said, there's many other ways to build your body of light, and you can explore them if you're called to, but this is the way we're doing it in this course because this is the way I know it, this is the way I learned it, and this is the way I practice it. As you begin on this journey with this pentagram ritual, I urge you to keep an open mind, a willingness to surrender your preconceived notions about how to work the ritual, about what it means to you, and maybe just work with it as I give it to you. It's really important that you take time to master the ritual itself. And this can only be done by working it twice a day as given. We do an invoking pentagram in the morning, and we do a banishing pentagram at night. Now, some people say, oh, no, you can't do that. That's dangerous. You must banish before you invoke. I've never had anything bad happen to me in all these decades of working it the way I work. I do the invoking pentagram in the morning, and I do the banishing pentagram at night. And that's just how I do it. It's a very simple ritual. I use my athame. You can use any kind of steel dagger. If you don't have a steel dagger, then just use your fingers. You start by imagining holding the steel dagger, or actually hold the steel dagger in your right hand. Now, if you take food, if you feed yourself with your left hand, you can use your left hand. Imagine holding this dagger while facing east. You touch your forehead with the dagger or your fingers, and you say Ate, which means thou art. Then you touch your breastbone while you say Malkuth, which means the kingdom. Then you touch your right shoulder, and you say Vegebura. This means the power. Then you touch your left shoulder, and you say Vegedula, which means the glory. You clasp your hands together and say Le'olam, which means forever. And then you hold that dagger between your fingers, making the point go straight up if you're holding a dagger, and you say Amen. That is called the Kabbalistic cross, and that's a type of grounding and centering and purification of your aura. So that in and of itself is really powerful. So you want to see that light moving in a cross formation, going down through your body, from the top of your body down through your feet as one part of the cross. And then you want to see the other bar of the cross going straight across your shoulders and completely balancing and purifying your aura. Now, you're going to keep holding onto that dagger or the imagination of the dagger, and you're going to draw, if you're in the morning, the invoking pentagram in the air, facing the east. You bring the dagger's point to the center after you've drawn the pentagram, and you vibrate the God name Yud-He-Vav-He. And when you do that, you can Yud-He-Vav-He, vibrate it like that, and you can really intone it. Now, if you're in a place where you can't make a lot of noise, you can do it silently, but in your mind, hear it booming, right? Then you turn to the south, and you make the same pentagram again, and you vibrate the God name Adonai. Then you turn to the west, you draw the same pentagram again, and you say Eheye. Turn to the north, you make the same pentagram again, and you vibrate the word Agala. Then you finally return to the east, completing your circle, bring the dagger point to the center of the first pentagram. Now you're going to stand with your arms outstretched like a cross, and you say, before me, Raphael, behind me, Gabriel. At my right hand, Michael. At my left hand, Ariel. Before me flames the pentagram, and behind me shines the six-rayed star. Now, then you make that Kabbalistic cross again, and you're done. Now, you'll want to visualize those pentagrams at each of those quarters with a blue flame, an electric blue flame. You'll feel the presence of the angels all about you. Now, if you don't know how to visualize that mystic blue flame, it's important that you learn how to do that. If you have a gas stove, you can just turn out the lights and turn on the gas stove, and that's the light of a blue flame. Another way to do that is you can take a teaspoon or a tablespoonful of cognac or rubbing alcohol and put it in a fireproof container and light it a flame. You can do that with a Bunsen burner too. Turn out the lights. Now, what I would do is whatever flame is burning, making sure it's a safe place to do that, allow the image of the flame to stay in your mind and practice recalling its color by looking at the flame and then closing your eyes and visualizing it. Then looking at the flame, closing your eyes and visualizing it. Repeat this until you can just see on command that blue flame. And that color is the color that your circle is going to be in, that's connecting those 4 pentagrams, which are also in that same color. And so is the cross going through your body. So that's the color that you're going to use. Now, if you prefer white light, you can use white light, but the blue light is traditional when you're dealing with building the body of light. So the first thing you do is just do that exercise. Just work the pentagram ritual every single day, twice a day. That can take weeks, that can take months, but you don't want to move on from this until you know each and every little step of that, and you can do it in your sleep. You don't have to think about the next step. You can do it so easily. Now, you may already be there. This may be something you already do. That's fine. But if not, there's no rush. Just do it. And there's so much good going on when you do this ritual that it's not just a ritual for the sake of doing a ritual. Even in addition to building your body of light, which comes next, you are purifying your aura, you're purifying your space, and you are aligning yourself with those celestial energies. You're doing so much good. And if you only did this one ritual for the rest of your life, that in and of itself is an initiatory path. That one ritual is everything. It's sort of like the sun salutation is everything. You don't need any other yoga, ultimately. You could just do the sun salutation. The same thing with this pentagram ritual. You can use nothing but that for the rest of your life, and there's great, great benefit in that. So that's the first thing, is to learn that until you can do it backwards, basically. Now, when you're ready to start building the body of light, what you want to do is take a chair into the circle where you're going to be doing your pentagram ritual and position the chair facing east. Take a couple of deep breaths and envision your body of light stepping up out of your physical body. Just do your best. Don't worry if you get it clearly or not. Just pretend that your body double is the same blue-colored flame getting up out of your body. And you watch it go about you doing the entire pentagram ritual. All the way around you. You're going to see it right in front of you do that Kabbalistic cross. You're going to see it do the pentagram in the east. You're going to hear it do the God name in the astral. You're going to see it go through each quarter. You're going to see it standing with its arms outstretched, calling the archangels of the directions, finishing the Kabbalistic cross, and then you'll see it come sit back in your body. That's the first thing you're going to practice doing. Now, what I would recommend is don't only do the pentagram ritual like that. Do it occasionally like that. Maybe do it once at night like that, and then just do your regular pentagram ritual in the morning with your whole body. Don't worry about whether you think it's real. Don't worry about whether you're faking it. Don't worry about whether it's your imagination. Just do it. When you are working this, you want to make sure to make some notes in your diary. It's a really smart idea. Some people don't like to work with a magical diary. I recommend that you just do at least a little bit. even doing a voice memo. It's not my favorite way of doing it. That's better than nothing. But I would just write it down in your diary about what happened and what you experienced, what your thoughts are, all of that. After you do that a few times, then start practicing this ritual in other ways. So you can do it physically by yourself like you normally do once, and then with your light body once. Now, do your physical and light bodies together. Do it where you're seeing your light body outside of you doing it. Do it where you are at one with your light body doing it outside of your physical body. Have all of these different ways of working that you're playing with. Remember, this takes time and patience, and you want to work on it over time. And doing this in and of itself is the building of your light body. Now, you're going to find other techniques, and you're more than welcome to incorporate whatever you want to. But I'm telling you, this is all I did, and this is all I found anybody really needs, is this. Now, as you've worked this and you've built this light body and you've given it some ability to do things, then you can start working with it. And in the traditional witchcraft, it's often called sending the fetch. Sending the fetch. When you make your light body do something, when you give it a task. And it's also known as a familiar spirit. Now, a lot of times people think of a familiar as being something that's like a pet. But another form of a familiar is your light body, where you give it tasks to do. Now with artificial intelligence becoming a thing, it's a lot easier to understand what the light body is. It's our own version of AI, a magical sort of version of that, where we're giving this sort of robot something to do. And when you send this fetch out, you can have it do so many things. Now, the word fetch and sending the fetch, that really comes from the Irish witchcraft traditions, but it's become nomenclature in a lot of traditional witchcraft. It's also commonly called a wraith or a wraith form, but the body of light is what most of us call it. Some people just call it the familiar. You can use it as a tool for manifesting desired outcomes. You can have it go get information about something. You can have it find how safe something is. Say you're going somewhere and you're wondering, what's the weather like? You can send it out and see how it's going, or whether it's too crowded at the grocery store, or all kinds of things, real practical things like that. It can also serve as a healing agent, because those higher light body energies are healing energies, and you can use it for that, to promote healing in your physical body or to heal other people. You can really tap into a bunch of very sacred energy with this light body. This familiar of yours can transform into any form you choose. It starts out looking like a double of you, because that's the best way to perceive it at first, but then you can give it any form you want. You can make it into a guardian. You can make it into an invisible thing that's getting information. You can have it move into a particular situation to give blessings. Remember that whatever form you give this body, it's going to take on the personality of that form. So be careful of that. It can be fun, but you've got to be really responsible. So just saying, I think I'm going to give it the form of a wolf. Wouldn't that be cool? Well, if you're doing that, just like AI, it's going to go out and say, what do wolves do? How do wolves act? And it's going to become a predator. Wolves aren't trained. You don't train a wolf to just only attack when there's something bad. They just go and attack. They're predators. So you got to be careful of that when you're giving your light body a form and giving it instruction. It's tied to the Akashic records. It can get any kind of information it wants, right? So you have to be very careful and make sure that you're giving it the form and the instructions that are what you really want. And you want to start slow with that too. And you don't want to just leave it on its own for a long period of time. You want to make sure that you're supervising it and that you're building it with care and with intelligence. Ultimately, this whole idea of this light body isn't for too much of this low-level maneuvering. Most of what we do with the light body is very high-level spiritual advancement. And so that's what our light body can be for us, is a way for us to increase the light that we are capable of withstanding in our lives. Because that light body, if you're giving it the function of ascension, if you will, if you're giving it a function of growing in the great work and the knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel, if you will, we don't have time in this world to constantly be meditating, to constantly be working spiritually. But if you give that task to your light body, it can be doing all of those things. It can be constantly in consultation with your angels. It can be constantly in contact with your soul, so that when you connect with it, that you can download all of that data, download all of that information, and allow yourself to quicken your own vibrations physically and mentally to be in accordance with that new higher vibration that your light body is taking on. So there's so many different ways to use the light body, and a lot of people get stuck in those low-level maneuvers, and they don't understand that's really not the point of it. And it's not that you can't have those low-level maneuvers. It's not that they're bad or evil. It's just that they can be like a time waster when you could be actually really moving into your own evolution at a very advanced rate by working with your light body in a higher manner. Remember that your light body exists on the etheric plane just below the angels. And that's talked about in the Psalms, that we're created just below the angels. That's where your light body is, not your physical body. That's where your light body is. When your light body is more capable of receiving instruction from your angels than your intellect is. So if you can let the light body be under the direction and guidance of your teaching angels, then really the sky's the limit for you. When you let your teaching angels be in charge of your light body and you put them in charge of it, you ask that be the case, then every time that you come back and work with your light body, like I said, you can download great amounts of spiritual understanding and knowledge, occult wisdom and magic that you would never have time for without it. So it's an amazing thing that in addition to helping you on the astral as a form for astral projection, it can also work on your behalf while you have to do things like go to work, and while you have to do things like sleep and make dinner and take care of kids and do all of the other things that get in the way of your occult studies. It's, again, not in place of your occult studies, but as an amazing adjunct to your occult studies. So this body of light is a very multifaceted tool, and it can be used in so many different ways. But if you see your familiar or your light body as a source of light and inspiration, that's its best function. And you can open yourself to so much more angelic light, or whatever terms you use, so much higher wisdom with this body of light. You can use this to connect to your own soul, to your own higher self. And that's a wonderful way to work with this body of light. It's not encumbered with a bunch of desires and a bunch of ego memories and guilt and things like that. It's just a body of light that's a stand-in for you. So if you program it and you say, learn all you can from my angels and then teach me when I get back, as you are taking care of business on the practical planes. I use my body of light to promote peace and healing in my own world and in my community. I allow my body of light to always be a beacon of angelic understanding, so that it's holding the space for me when I can't be always available to do those kinds of things. It's always there. It's always on. So when I'm working with that familiar, it's not a go hex this person, go spy on this person, go do this, go do that, go attack this person. That's not how at all I work with my body of light. My body of light is very much programmed to my own spiritual evolution, to receive as much wisdom as possible and to help me speed up my progress so that I can have around the clock access to wisdom even when I'm not capable of putting my conscious mind on that around the clock. So I hope you feel inspired and empowered by this idea of the light body. This is a topic that you can talk about for weeks and weeks. We could probably do a whole course on the light body, but we won't do that right now. Just suffice it to say that if you want to get going with this, the first thing you need to do is find that ability to get out on the etheric plane by training that part of your mind that can do that, and learn that ritual, that pentagram ritual, until you can do it without thinking about it, and then start to build your body of light as it's talked about in the lesson and as I've just described for you. And I think you're going to find that your craft really expands in ways that you did not know were possible. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.